Hi, this is John Ferrantino.
And this is Mike Grief.
And this is Craig Mitchell. Listen to us on the Big Bad Broadcast every Friday at 9 a.m. wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
The Podcast Playground. Hooray!
Hey folks, what's up? Welcome back to the Darren Harris program. I'm your host, Darren Harris. What's good, folks? How was your week? Hopefully it was good. I had a good week. I actually took a week off. And if you listened, and hopefully you listened afterward, if you listened and you're here today, then you know that last week the AI took over my podcast. I had an AI host, or an AI Darren Harris, take over my podcast. And I'm curious to know, did anyone notice that it wasn't me? Did anybody know? Did anybody realize? Could you tell? Could you not tell? I want to know. I listened to it. I thought it was creepy as fuck. It was creepy. It was creepy. Like Creep Factor 5 creepy. Like creepy. Because while it doesn't necessarily sound like me, the enunciation and the diction and the way I pronounce words, it did pick up on some of those things. And I was kind of taken back by it. I was kind of, I don't know, like I said, taken back by it. It was weird to listen to because on one hand, I was like, hey, it's me. But on the other hand, I know that ain't me, man. That ain't me. And I knew it wasn't me for a couple of other reasons, because it said shit that I would never say. It used words, some words that, I mean, a lot of words that I would use, but some words that I haven't used in years. So that's how I kind of knew that it was AI. And hopefully, if you listen enough, then you out there will also be able to tell whether or not it's AI. Creepy. It was creepy. But I had a good week. My week was really good. My wife and I, we stepped out to do some outdoor living. We did some outdoor stuff this week because the weather down here in Florida is actually getting to be quite nice. It's really nice down here right now, and I'm digging it. I'm digging it a lot. We've been really just kind of getting in the car, and we don't have a lot of money, so we just get in the car and drive around and look at scenery and look at the greenery, and we've decided that we're going to try and start going to the different Florida state parks. So in the past few days, we've been to 2 or 3 state parks. We went last Saturday to Ichtuckney Springs State Park here in North Florida. I believe it's in Suwannee County someplace. I don't know, in the middle of the woods in Florida. It's out there in the woods, folks. I mean, be careful out there, too, because it's out there in the woods, and you don't want to be caught out there in the woods. We floated down the river, and I did see a girl with an entire rebel flag bathing suit out there on the river, and I'm not kidding. But we didn't let that stop us from going out and having a good time. We rented a couple of tubes. That was cheap. I think the whole trip cost us maybe $20. But we didn't take a shuttle back. You can take a shuttle back. We didn't take the shuttle back. We opted for the 20-minute walk back from the disembark point from the river, because the river continues to go. And we got in, I forgot what the name of the landing where we put in at, but they said it was about a good 45 minutes from that point to the end of, or to the disembark point. And it felt like about an hour. It felt like it was about a good hour and 5 minutes or so. It was really, really relaxing. It was very close to nature, but at the same time, it was really perilous because it's a natural river. It's a clear river spring, and some places in the river are 4 feet deep. Other places are 34 feet deep. And we're on these inner tubes, and you look on the banks, and there's nothing holding any kind of wildlife back, except for the fact There are no gators. I haven't really seen. Now, I used to float down this river when I was younger, but there are no gators in this river. And I believe that's because it's too cold, because it is 71 degrees year-round in the spring. It's a little chilly, but it really feels good in hot-ass Florida. It really feels great in hot-ass Florida. I remember being young and floating down, not from the state park side, but from the private side, because after the disembark point, the river continues, and you start rolling up on people's private property. And it's a lot of private property. There's private property all the way down the river, all the way till you get to the next river. And the thing about that is, though, is like the girl in the rebel flag bathing suit, you see a lot of rebel flags and a lot of America out there. And they're out there. And there's very few people of color that go beyond the disembark point for obvious reasons. Now, when I was younger, I didn't really take much stock in it. I didn't think about it too much. But now that I'm older, I do kind of think about it, because I'm just going to be honest, it's more prominent now than it was back then. I mean, I would go back out in the woods with my white friends, and we would float down the river for hours and come back up and float down the river again for hours. Whole families. I never had any problems, never saw anything that would have caused me to not want to go there or go back there. And this was when I was anywhere from 19 to 25 years old. I'm 52, about to be 53 now. On my 50th birthday, we floated down the private side with my best friend and his family. And like I said, it was a really nice float, but the redneckery out there was insurmountable. It was a lot of it. It was everywhere. Any place you looked, it was rebel flags, and this dude's name is Cletus, and the other dude's name is Cooter, and it was redneckerson, folks, for lack of a better phrase. But they didn't bother with us. They didn't say anything off color. Nobody shouted any obscenities. They kind of just let us go about our business and float on down the river. Some of them even waved. It was all right. I didn't form any kind of opinion about those folks. I just chose to have a good time with my friends and enjoy my birthday. That was my 50th. And much of it was the same on Saturday. We just didn't let any of that affect us, even though it was prominent, it was right out there in our faces. And we just chose to enjoy the nature, enjoy the wildlife. The river was really, really cool. If you live in Florida or you're planning a trip to Florida, I highly recommend stopping at Ichetucknee Springs State Park and floating down the river. It's really, really nice. Very, very nice. Very peaceful. It was good for mental health this week, even though I got prescribed more medication. But it was very good to help that. It was very good to relax me. I wasn't so ragified. I wasn't so sad, and I wasn't so defeated. It gave me a whole new outlook, really a whole new perspective on things. When I left the park, it was really kind of sad that I was actually having to go back to all this bullshit right down here in town. Because we don't live far from it. We live about 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes from the state park. So we can go pretty frequently, and it's relatively inexpensive. I think to gain access to the state park, all they need is for you to just, I think it's a donation, like a donation fee. And there's other state parks and other springs that you can go and visit, and they are amazing. For lack of a better phrase, it's amazing out there. It really is. Especially if you are into the outdoors, I would wholeheartedly recommend stopping at the state parks here in North Florida, because you will definitely see some things that you've never seen before, and you won't be disappointed. If you camp, there's campgrounds out there. You can camp out there, but you do have to beware, because this is Florida. It is summertime, and there are critters out there that'll get you if you're not paying attention. But that's not what I'm talking about today. But I just wanted to get that out of the way. I wanted to kind of warm up and warm into this because I want to ask a question of everybody. And the question is, what would you do if the United States economy just collapsed out of nowhere? What would you do? How would you react? Where would you go? Who would you call? Would you go to the bank? Try to pull out all your worthless money? What would you do? The truth is a lot of us really aren't prepared and really don't know what we would do if all of a sudden our economy collapsed, because it's the only thing we really know. If our economy suddenly were to crash, there would be turmoil that you could not even imagine. There would be crisis on every street corner in every city across this country. I mean, there will be some people in this country that will be okay. The upper 1 percentile, some of the people who have a lot of worthless money to burn, because it will still hold some value. I don't think it'll completely go away. But it won't be good for the money to not be worth what it's worth. And let's be clear, the United States dollar is not the most, not really stable. It's not the best currency. It's not the top-rated currency. I can't remember the country whose currency is the top-rated, but the United States, our country, our currency is meh. But the advantage that we have here in the United States is that it is the preferred, well, it's the capital that the world trade is built on. World trade is built on the U.S. dollar. All right now, currently, there's, many countries, most countries, they all trade in the U.S. dollar. They all pay their debts in U.S. dollars. Everybody is seeking that almighty U.S. dollar. But there's a problem. There's a problem looming for the U.S. dollar. They're calling it the dollar killer. Actually, they're not calling it the dollar killer. I'm calling it the dollar killer, because it very well potentially could kill off the dollar, effectively hurting our economy, causing turmoil in our nation, making things harder here than they really need to be. If you're not aware, maybe some of you saw it on social media. I've been kind of following it a little bit, but there's some countries, and there's an acronym. It's BRICS, B-R-I-C-S. The BRICS nations that trade with the United States are moving to a new global economy. They're wanting to start a new global economy, and they want to leave the United States out of it. Now, the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are all now global emerging markets. And not for nothing, there's a few other ones that are considering leaving the dollar for this new currency that they are developing. The U.S. dollar currently is backed by nothing. It's just a piece of paper that we have decided what the value of this piece of paper is going to be based on whatever factors they base it on. But this new currency that they're coming up with, or they're developing, is going to be backed by gold. It's going to have the gold standard. At one point, gold was it was money. You walked into the little saloon, you put your little gold coin up there, they gave you a sarsaparilla, you drank it down, you flipped the guy the little gold coin, and you walked out. Got shot in the street for your gold coins. That's how we did it here in America, in the Wild Wild West. When we found gold, we tried to kill everybody and take their gold and get rich. But these nations are actively seeking a global economy without the United States, without the interference of the United States that is not reliant on the United States. It's crazy. What happens? What happens? What happens to the United States if our dollar collapses? I mean, let's break it down a little bit. And I'll be going through this pretty much most of the podcast back to this question. What happens? What happens to us? The crime rate. I'm expecting if this happened, if this were to happen, the crime rate would skyrocket. There would be so much crime because of the hyperinflation. There's going to be astronomical inflation. People are going to be challenged to find daily goods. They're going to be challenged on so many levels. It's going to get tiresome to some people. It's going to get extreme to others. So that got me thinking. I'm not ready. So how do I protect myself? How do I protect myself from this? And I sit back and I ponder and I think. And I come up with some pretty good stuff. But some of that stuff still, I keep thinking, I'll have this much money in that. But if the dollar's worthless. So the key is to not wait. To always be ready. And not just for this. For anything. Any kind of disaster, whether it be economical, environmental, whatever disaster that you come across. Be ready. Be prepared for it. Be prepared for it because they're not going to stop. We've made a couple of powerful enemies. I wouldn't say China is our enemy yet. But we're cruising that way. I think right now we just have a relationship, a strained relationship is what we have. And just recently, China has committed to backing Russia militarily, should anything arise. I'm sure those are with conditions, and I'm sure those conditions include the United States of America and our allies. But I don't put anything past Vladimir Putin because he's just bent on the destruction of the United States for some reason. So Russia, China, Brazil, India, and South Africa have all decided that they want to leave the United States for this other currency. But they're not the only ones. There's a host of them. Turkey, Indonesia, Argentina, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia said that they're no longer concerned with trying to please the United States. We're screwing up on the world stage. I mean, look at our country. We are in shambles over here, and the rest of the world is looking over here like we are the last trailer on the left in the trailer park. I'm sorry, everybody, but America has 3 teeth right now. America's got 3 teeth, and the rest of the world is looking at us like we're a bunch of bumpkins, like we're a bunch of idiots, because we are. Look at us. Look at us. And this is what they do. There's so much going on right now that our attention is focused on all these other issues. And I'm guilty because my attention is focused on those issues as well because, well, they affect me. They affect my kids. They affect my future. But this is something that also affects my children and my future greatly. But people put it down, this could never happen. I don't say never to nothing. I really don't. I don't say never to nothing. For real. I just don't, because it's a possibility that it could happen. And right now, this is a strong possibility because we trade with China right now. If you don't think we trade with China, order something off Amazon and see if it doesn't come here from China. That's pretty much most things on Amazon. There are a few things you can kind of find, but it's few and far between. And a lot of us here in the United States now, we order from Amazon. Why? Because we're lazy and we don't want to get up and go to the store anymore. But that's another podcast. But we trade with China. If we stopped trading with China, yeah, it would hurt China, but I don't think it would hurt China as much as it would hurt us because China is making other moves than we are. And there's a loophole here that they don't have in those other countries like China or Russia. How many Russians or how many Chinese people, Chinese nationals, do you think have come to the United States and bought the soil? Bought the ground underneath their feet? How many? We allow people from anywhere to come here and buy property. Just as long as we get the money, it's fine. And that's the way it is. But I highly doubt, other than the consulates, that there is, I think they closed the one in Russia. There's no more, no American owns property in Russia. No American owns property in China. Maybe the super wealthy, but that's probably not. I don't think they own anything. You might own a condo, but you don't own any dirt. You don't own the dirt. I don't think there's Trump Tower, Beijing. I don't think there's that. I don't know. I could be wrong, but, and if there is, it definitely isn't prominent. It isn't a prominent thing where we go to China and buy a property, or we go to Russia and this piece of property looks great. I'm going to buy these 6 acres of land over here near Siberia. I don't think it works like that over there. Now, in the other countries, you can go to Spain. I think there's a few countries that will actually pay you to move to the country because of declining population or whatever it is. But I don't think those are two of the countries. Now, I do think you can go buy property in Brazil. I think you can buy property in India, and I know you can buy property in South Africa. You know, you can go over there because they're into capitalism too. Everybody's into capitalism. And I think that's what Vladimir Putin is so buddy-buddy with Xi Jinping for, because he has figured it out to be communist, but to take on Western characteristics. And that's exactly what it's called. It's communism with Western characteristics is exactly what it's called. And basically what that is communism, but we like to be capitalists and make money too. It's capitalist communism is what it is. It's both. Only the capital goes to the state instead of to the people. And it's doled out and divvied out to the people, you know, on the bread lines, et cetera, et cetera. And don't get it twisted. China is, you know, guilty of human rights violations. There's sweatshops over there. They're working the shit out of little kids. Make no mistake about it. It's happening. You know, you don't protest against the government in China, and they're swift to deal about it, and they don't care what the world thinks about it, period. And that's why they're in the position that they're in, is because they don't care what the world thinks about it. And what they mean by the world, they mean us. They don't care what we think. China, for people who don't know, China has built cities, entire cities in other countries. Entire cities built by the Chinese and other countries, and we're not doing that. We're not doing that. It's that simple. We're not doing that. China is an emerging market, and Goldman Sachs says China is on pace to out-earn the United States and the European Union this year. People were saying 2025, but it's this year. China is cooking. It is a smoking train, and we are standing on the platform. There's a change coming, folks. There is a definite change coming. I'm not sure what it is, but there is too much shit. It's like a giant pimple here in the United States. In a few minutes, somebody is going to pop that bitch, and it's going to be all over everything. It's going to be all over everybody. We're all going to feel it. And they're lying to us. And I just don't get it, folks. I don't understand why we keep allowing these people to lie to us. We keep letting these people divide us. We keep electing and putting these people in office. And you see what they're doing. They're making these laws up themselves without consulting the American people, which is what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to make laws based on America, not based on how they feel about a subject. And that's exactly what they're doing. And that's ruining our country. It's altering the course of where we were going, which I thought we were moving somewhere positive, but we're reverting back to Jim Crow. We're going back. There's a bunch of Republicans who back a lot of bullshit, for short lack of a better phrase, and I don't want to really call Republicans like that out, but it's this y'all, man. It's Republicans, man. Is you motherfuckers making bullshit ass laws, trying to get them shits passed that cut the rights off of so many people, but benefit you motherfuckers only. That shit to me is bullshit, bro. I'm gonna call it what it is. Politicians, like it or not, they control our money. Politicians and corporations, they control our money. They control our money. They put it in these banks, and you know what these banks do? They fucking make money with our money. We get a little bit of an interest rate, a little bit of interest back, but they make money with our money. Once we deposit our money into the bank, they use this money to invest in different things to earn money for the economy, for their bank, for their name, for their association, for their crew, their gang, or whatever you want to call these motherfuckers. But that's what they're doing with our money. And we look at these, we get it out of the ATM, and it's all right, there's our shiny money right there. We put our number in at the ATM, and it comes out. We go in the bank, we take our money, we give it to these motherfuckers. One day, not too long ago, motherfuckers tried to get their money out and couldn't because there were some issues. And there are going to continue to be more financial issues because these people are not being straight with us. They're not being straight with us. We already know the media is, the media. The biggest group of liars in the entire world. Fox News and CNN, a bunch of fucking liars. But there's something happening. They're covering up, folks. There's something happening that they're not really talking about. They're not really covering this story. These stories are big. This is a big deal. To continue, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Iran, and like I said, a bunch of countries are getting rid of the dollar. And we're sitting here like, that doesn't matter. We'll be all right. No, we won't. No, we won't. That's going to hurt. All these people all of a sudden have gone away from paying us our money. Our money is worthless to them. It doesn't have to be really worthless here. It's worthless to them. The rest of and I'll tell you what, if it outperforms the dollar, I would I would think that a lot of other people would jump off too. I mean, because let's face it, our relationship with China is really straining the European Union. It really is, because they want to continue to trade. They ain't got a fucking problem with China. We don't have an issue with you, man. We've been buying, the shit you selling for years. We've really never had an issue. It's just between you and the United States. But we deal with the United. That's our homeboy. We allies with the United States. But China, they don't give a fuck about us. They'll trade to us or not. They don't care, because they have set themselves up to be successful and self-reliant without us, or they're on their way to doing that without us, U.S., without us. And these motherfuckers keep talking about make America great again. This motherfucker, well, first of all, was never great, but is steadily sliding in the toilet. I don't know how else to say it. We about to flush this shit right on down the John. Right on down. I don't know how we're going to do it, folks. Just so you know that these countries, these emerging markets, these countries, by 2050, they are projected to dominate the global economy. By 2050, we're not there. The greatest country, or so we think, the greatest country in the world is not there. I heard somebody say that if this happened, America could lose its superpowers. It could lose its superpower status. And there's a lot of worst case scenarios. A lot of them. Well, I'm going to take a break. And when I come back, we're going to get into some of those scenarios. We're going to get into some of those worst case scenarios if the dollar were to collapse here in the United States. Sit still and don't go nowhere. You're listening to the Darren Harris Podcast.
So we were in Times Square
taking selfies with all the lights.
I bought a shot glass.
I bought a snow globe at this little shop.
I collect those.
Then we grabbed a slice at this
super secret spot.
It smelled a bit
funky outside. I heard they don't have alleys.
They don't have alleys.
They don't have alleys,
but they certainly have people.
Lots of people.
When everyone's vacation sounds the same,
it's time for something different. Go on a real vacation. Go RVing. Learn more at GoRVing.com.
Hey folks, what's up? Welcome back to the Darren Harris Podcast. Today I'm talking about the collapse of the dollar. What would you do if the United States dollar, if the money that you had in your pocket right now all of a sudden became worthless or half of what it was worth? What would you do? What would happen? What do you think would happen here in our country if all of a sudden my money ain't worth shit? I mean, you're still going to have to pay your bills. Keep that in mind. People, they're not going to forgive you for your bills. They want their money, even though it's worthless. But it's going to be harder for you to pay for anything. Anything. You can forget owning a fucking house. You can forget buying a loaf of bread. I can see bread easily being a topic of discussion on the news here if this goes down. Bread. I mean, crazy. I mean, what would actually happen? I was talking to some of my friends, and we were brainstorming this, and we think that we've come to, a unanimous decision that there would be, like I said, skyrocketing hyperinflation. I mean, so much inflation, like inflationess. I mean, up there where you can't get away from it, where it's right here everywhere you go. Anything you buy, a stick of gum, it doesn't matter. It's going to get you. Be saving your pennies, everything. We also thought that if this were to happen, there would be, like I said earlier, there would be crime. There would be a shit ton of crime. People would be out here in the streets, y'all. I'm telling you, the streets would be coming back in full swing. Everybody would be out here in these streets trying to get whatever they could get for whatever they could get it for. And I'm talking a complete breakdown of society, folks. So you know what happens when society breaks down, which leads me to another bad thing or bad scenario that could happen, is martial law. Especially if it's nationwide. Nationwide martial law if the economy collapses. Put it in perspective like that. It's going to happen because we have a military. But what that's going to do is that's going to strain our military on our own citizens, leaving our enemies to target us from the inside and out. Yeah, folks, this is the type of shit I think about. But for real, this is a scenario that really could take place if we're not careful, if we don't have foresight, if we don't have that clairvoyance to see that we on some out. We are focusing on the trees right now. We are only focusing on the trees and we are not seeing the forest. And that's what's happening in the United States right now. All these trees are popping up in our political system. All these trees are taking our gaze off of the forest. Everything, folks, not just what's going on here, what's going on around the world is important, especially when it affects us. Because right now, we're powerless to do anything about this. The people in power are the ones that are making all the rules. We didn't make this. I don't got a fucking problem with China. I really don't. I mean, honestly, me, Darren Harris, I don't have problem number one with China. Okay? They don't come over here inflicting their bullshit on me. They don't. I don't have problem with China. I got a problem with sweatshops and shit like that. But has China come over here and snatched me or any of my kids or family to put them in a sweatshop? Have they asked them to come work? No. China don't know me. They don't give a fuck about me. They don't got a problem with me. The only thing they want is to sell me more of their Amazon shit. And that's all China wants. And okay, China, I'm down. What you got? And that's what most Americans are feeling. And that's so funny to me because so many of us, we don't realize, man, fuck China. China, man, these motherfucking Chinese, fuck China. Well, I'm going to go buy this shit off of Amazon really fast. This is really nice. Look at what I got off of Amazon. Yeah, all the lights come on and everything. We're stupid. Fuck China, but we're buying from China, right? 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 I mean, come on, folks. That's really what it is. That's what it is. We need to stop the shit we're on. We need to get off the shit we're on. And really, except for the communism, we really need to get on the shit that China's on. Really. We need to be smoking the shit they're smoking. Because that's some good shit over there. They got shit around the world. They got carte blanche around the world. Meanwhile, we don't no more. People that used to look at Americans like, oh, wow, the Americans are all like, oh, the fucking Americans. Because of the people that we elect. Look at these idiots. Look at these people. Look at them. But it's kind of a shame because these are the only people that are running or care to run. I wish some of these people, some of the actual good people, would care to run. Democrat or Republican, I really don't care. As long as you are good to all United States citizens, not just towards your special interests. And that's what it is. It's all about money. It all comes down to money and special interests and how much they can pay, how much they can use to boost your campaign. Like down here, Ron DeSantis, one of the donors, one of his large donors, like I think the largest donor is at odds with him and is vowing not to donate to his campaign because of his problem with Disney World. Yeah. And for those of you who don't, and this is what I'm talking about, the people that we put in power, for those of you who don't know, the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, wants to take control of the Disney Special District. They want to control Disney. They want the government to control Disney World. And Disney World is like, no, you can't control Disney World. We're not part of the state. We're not a state park. We're none of that. We're not none of that. We're a business. Okay, we are Disney World. We own Marvel Studios and Pixar. That's what we do. We don't do manatees and that kind of shit. We don't do state park shit. That's what we don't do. You know what I'm saying? And the more and think about this, folks. If you want to tie this into the economy, think about this. This man is so adamant, and I quote, "Come hell or high water, they're going to conform to what we want them to do." That's what he wants. But Disney got long-ass money, for one. I'm going to tell you straight like that. Disney got long-ass money. You know what I'm saying? So any fight that DeSantis is going to jump in with Disney, be prepared for a hell of a fight because they got money coming out of every orifice on every character they ever created, period. So with that being said, this man threatening Disney World here in the state of Florida, that can't be good for us because worst case scenario, Disney World decides after 50 years, 53, whatever years, we packing up in the state of Florida. How about that? Or not even that. We're just going to close. We're going to close in the state of Florida. We're going to close, and we're only going to open on Tuesdays. In the state of Florida. That's what we're going to do. We're going to open, and we're going to open 24 hours at every other Disney World across the world. Because you know where Florida isn't? France. You know where Disney World is that Florida isn't? France. They don't give a fuck about Florida. They really don't. They care about Disney World. That's what they care about. And if you want to come over here and try to impose your will on Disney World, you're going to find out that the mouse is more powerful than you think he is. Period. Now, you might get your way, but it's going to be under some super conditions, and you just mad because you got your fucking feelings hurt the first time. But this, folks, if this man pushes Disney World out of Florida, this could, really. Now, Disney World, they're not gonna give up their flagship. The state of Florida is their home. Well, I look at it like this: they don't necessarily have to close. They just have to ride out Ron DeSantis. That's it. They just have to ride this motherfucker out, and that's all. And they got, like I said, they got long money. They got money to tie the state of Florida up in court for years. Years. They make. Did you see the Avengers Endgame? You know what I'm saying? They're making loot. They're making money, and they don't care about the government here, because the government here, and not just here in this state, in many states, a lot of the states, is full of shit, and they're making laws that hurt people, and they're putting them in bills. They're writing these bills with so many of these other catches that we don't really read through, or we don't really recognize or understand. We just go ahead and vote for this motherfucker because we don't really want to read through all that shit. But there's a lot of shit that hurts people, man, and I just don't understand how anybody could vote for anyone who, A, wants to deter anybody's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I just can't imagine that. And if this person wants to change his gender, then I would call that the pursuit of happiness. Because if that's going to make that person happy, that's exactly what that is. So far be it from anyone. And regardless of what kind of sin it is, that is between that person and God, not you, not a man, any woman, any politician, any preacher, any pope, nobody. That's between God and that person. So I think people really need to learn how to back off and mind their fucking business is really what I think needs to happen. But back on the worst case scenarios, if the economy were to collapse, poor food production, and even poor medical care. We're not going to get any food. Food is going to be scarce, folks. Food is going to be scarce, folks. People are going to be robbing each other in the street. They're going to be selling ass for food in the street. Men too. Watch. Straight dudes going to be out there selling ass for a loaf of bread. Watch. It's going to be crazy out there. It's going to be wild business out there, and I don't want any part of that. I really don't. I want my family subjected to it. None of them. But they got to wake up too, though, because I can't speak for everybody in my family. I really can't. I can't do that. But they have to do it for themselves. They got to understand that this is very real, and that they need to get prepared for this just in case it happens. It may never happen, but damn, ain't it good to be prepared just in case it does? That's what I think. I think it's good to be prepared. So regardless of how extreme this may sound, folks, I do think that everyone should start getting prepared for a lot of different things. And like I said before, worst case scenario, military attacks from other countries. That's a real possibility. I mean, people sucker punch you when you down. They really do. People have sucker punched you when you're down. I've sucker punched a motherfucker when he was down. I have. I watched my man Flex sucker punch another motherfucker while he was down. People sucker punch motherfuckers while they're down. And if we go down, watch all the sucker punches, man. Some of them are going to sucker punch us a couple of times. I'm telling you, folks, not only are we doing it, but there are so many other countries trying to kill the United States. For many reasons, and a lot of different reasons. And really what it is because the United States does what all white people do. They don't mind their business. The United States is in everybody's business. Anybody who's worth a damn, they're in their business. We're in everybody's business. We need to mind our business. And I think a lot of people are starting to give that pushback to us. Where they were afraid to before, now they're starting to realize that other countries aren't afraid to push back and tell the United States no. And we just can't deal with that. It's hard for us to, oh, no, you have to do what we say. We condemn that over there and such what's going over there. We condemn the attacks on... We don't give a fuck what you think. How about that? We don't care what you condemn. And there's more of that that's coming, folks. There's more countries that are on the bandwagon of fuck the United States than not. Trust and believe. Trust and believe. And if you are not prepared, folks, we are going to be caught up in the worst times that you will probably ever see in the history of this country. The worst times. And that's just a prediction of mine. I really hope it doesn't come to pass. I really don't. I really hope that we can get by this. I hope that we can patch things up, but it's not really looking like it is. But you know what they say, folks, and this also comes back to the Bible. The world's all fucked up. Now everybody's waiting. Everybody's waiting for that one person to come and unite the world. Who is that? Because that person is the Antichrist. Or so they say. I'm going to take another break. And when we come back, I'm going to be talking about what you can do to prepare should this happen. Don't get caught with your ass out. This is the Darren Harris Podcast.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
Hey folks, what's poppin'? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Darren Harris. If you're just joining me today, I'm talking about The collapse of the dollar. What would you do if the United States dollar went to shit? What if it collapsed and you, like all of a sudden out of nowhere, what would you do? Who would you call? Where would you go? What would happen to our society? What can you do if this were to happen? What can you do to prepare for this tragedy or this explosion of bullshit? What can you do to prepare for this? Well, me and some of my constituents, some of my friends, we were still talking about this, and we were brainstorming again on what could you do? What can you do? What can we do? What can we do? Well, the first thing that we thought of was look at foreign investments. And bear with me for just a minute. Look at foreign investments. Invest in other countries. You don't necessarily have to invest in the new money, even though I would invest in the new money. Fuck it. If it's going to be the global money, I don't want to be caught with my ass out. So rest assured, I'd have a little bit of the new money, but I would look at other markets that trade well, and I would look at trying to earn money in those markets, investing in some of those countries. I would try and invest in tech companies. You see, Elon Musk is launching rockets into space and trying to launch the biggest rocket in the world ever to be launched into space, and he's trying to do that here soon, relatively soon. So tech companies, if this mission, especially if this mission, even if it isn't, because it's always going to continue, as long as you have people like Elon Musk, this industry will continue. So tech industries, I would say, try and check out some tech industries. Look at some tech industries to invest in, because everybody is using technology. And if you can find a currency that, has a decent exchange rate, and you can invest in some of these companies. I said, which is a crutch word. I'm going to call myself out every time. And invest in some of these companies, then you might be able to stave off some of the hardship. Well, what else can you do? Well, I think purchasing land also is something that you could do that could potentially benefit you. Purchase land. Get you some dirt. Get you some dirt for a couple of different reasons. You can homestead dirt. That's yours. You can be on your dirt. You can fence it. You can homestead and fight your last stand in this motherfucker if you have to. This is your dirt. Put you a flag. This United, the dirt of Darren Harris. United dirt of Darren. This is my dirt. Get you some dirt. You can do a lot of things with dirt. You can farm crops with dirt. You can learn a trade with dirt. You can have cattle with dirt. There's a lot of things you can do with earth. You can feed people. You can house people, not just yourself. Another thing that you could do to prepare is band together with people. Band together with people, like-minded individuals like yourselves, and get a plan. Make a plan. And that's really what it all comes down to, folks, is planning. Just have a plan. Because the people who fail to plan are the people who are out there with their ass out. And it's just that simple. You don't plan, your ass is out. And that's the correlation. You don't plan, your ass is out, and then somebody's asking you for some ass because they got a loaf of bread that you need. And you don't want to be caught in that situation, so plan, everyone. This is, my friends will tell you, I don't believe in this. I go against this a lot. And, I go against it a lot. But you got to arm yourself. You got to exercise your Second Amendment right, even though it needs to be revised. You have to exercise your Second Amendment right and arm yourself. You have to arm yourself. Arm yourself. Because the last thing you want to do is be in a situation where there's total chaos in the country, martial law, people are out robbing and looting. My wife is fine as hell, man. I ain't trying to get killed so motherfuckers could take my wife nowhere. I'm going out. We all going to die right here in the middle of the intersection. I'm going to shoot you. If you shoot me, I'm going to shoot her. And we all going out of here. Like me and my wife, we have a plan on how we going to die. It's just going to be me, her, the garage, our car, some carbon monoxide. We're going to have some weed. We're going to get some liquor. We gonna get some Netflix and chill. That's what we gonna do. That's how we going out. We gonna be 94 years old trying to Netflix and chill in the garage. That's what we doing. So that doesn't really leave any room for apocalyptic bullshit, if you know what I mean. So I'm not trying to be caught with my ass out with no weapon. So we are actively looking for firearms. Now, I'm not Rambo. I don't need all kinds of crazy special weapons. I need a shotgun, I need a pistol, and I need a rifle. Shotgun for anybody who comes up on me, pistol to back that up, and I need a rifle to hunt with. Because believe it or not, if things keep rolling, we're going to have to get out there and learn how to fend and eat for ourselves, folks. Hunting might be one of those things. Trust me. Look at cryptocurrency. That's another thing you can do. You can look right at some Bitcoin or some Dogecoin or some Litecoin or whatever. Ethereum. I think Ethereum was hot for a few minutes, man, and you just hear about the metaverse, and all of a sudden the metaverse done died the fuck down. Everything on the metaverse has died down. I bet you a lot of these people feel crazy for picking these NFTs for all this money. But that's all right. People made money on that shit. And congratulations to all the people who made money on their NFTs, and they got it in Ethereum. And that right there, my friends, is what it is. Get yourself some cryptocurrency to back yourself up. Get yourself some cryptocurrency. Get yourself some gold. Invest in precious metals. I've been looking at some gold firms. You do your research. Make sure you pick a legit one. Buy some gold. Look into tech stocks. Look into stocks in other countries. Get yourself some land. And two things that my wife and I did. And this helped our relationship. It really did, because either you know or you don't. Through COVID, we figured out that we're inseparable. If you take one of us, you're going to have to take both of us. I went to the psychiatric hospital, and my wife was trying to break me out. She wanted to admit herself so that she could try and break me out, and I told her, don't do that, or they're going to keep both of us. But yeah, that's a real thing. But this is what we did. My wife and I, we made a decision. And I've talked about this on my podcast before, but this was one of the reasons that we made this decision. Now, this was months ago. This was last year, before this was even prominent in the news, before they started talking about all these BRICS countries real heavy like that. My wife and I decided that we were going to downsize our lives. To downsize. We don't need all this shit. When you die, we just give this shit to the people below us. Here you go. You take this shit now. And they give it to the people below them and the people below them until either it's lost or it's a piece of shit, ends up in some landfill or at the bottom of the ocean somewhere. We don't need all the shit that we have. We don't need all this shit to be happy. We really don't, folks. We really don't. My wife and I are happy as two peas in a pod. That was a white-ass thing to say, but it made sense. But we're happy. And we owe that to two things. One, we downsized our lives. And two, we bought ourselves a Class A motorhome to live in full time. My wife and I live full time in a motorhome. Currently, we're at my mother's compound, getting some strength, making sure that the coach is roadworthy. It's an older coach. It's not new by any stretch of the imagination. It's a 2004. It's an 18, 19-year-old RV. But it's clean. The engine is clean. It's our home. We love it. And we're happy. And that, folks, is where it is. And that is where it is for me and my family. Now, this right here is, for me, a rough outline of this plan that I'm developing should these events or any events really arise in our country. Because let's face it, folks, the climate in our country right now is not good for everybody or anybody, really. There's so much in the media about hate and racism and sexism and classism and so many things, transgender issues, so many things that are in our society that are screwing us up. It's going to be hard, folks, to recover from this. So in the event that any of these things boils over and spills over into the rest of the country, because rest assured, if the cap comes off, the cap is coming off all of it. Are you prepared? Are you ready? I know some of you think that you are, but really, are you? I know for me right now, I'm not prepared. And I know for me right now, I need to get prepared. We all need to get prepared. Need to put all the affairs of our house in order and get prepared, get hunkered down, get ready to brace for impact. Because it's coming. Well, folks, I think that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Deron Harris Podcast. I hope I didn't bore you. And I hope that you learned something. I hope that I made you curious. I hope that I made you hungry for knowledge. Thirsty. I wish everybody out there the best of luck. And God bless everybody, really. God bless everybody. Because I feel that right now, like that song, the world needs, that's what the world needs right now. The world needs some love. The world needs a big fat ass hug, man. And I think that Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune and Uranus and everybody needs to get together and hug this shit out of the earth. Because this motherfucker is sad right now. The earth is sad right now. And we need some love here. And I hate it. And I hate to say it, but I'm trying to do my part. I try and do my part every day. I smile and I treat people with respect, kindness, and dignity. And I hope that everybody here can learn and embrace and do the same. So like I said, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Deron Harris Podcast. Thank you for joining me. I want to thank my wife for being the best wife in the world and for floating down the river and doing absolutely crazy redneck shit with me. Floating down the river, baby. Wow. Impressive. And just so you know, folks, I'm from New York and she's from Chicago, and you got two city people out here in the middle of the Florida woods. And I'm talking about the woods, the country. We was out there. So I want to thank you, babe, for being a good sport and really, really relaxing, because it's hard for you to relax. It's hard for my wife to relax, but she did a good job relaxing. I want to thank you for coming with me and having a good, relaxing day. I want to thank my parents for being the best parents that I could ever have. My father has always taught me to be analytical, and my mother has always taught me to be compassionate and loving. So I want to thank both my parents for that. I want to thank my best friend, Jesse Yandel, for encouraging me to do my podcast. He is also my producer. He is the one who mixes down my podcast and edits me down if I'm too loud, etc., etc. He makes me sound good on the air, so I want to give a sharp shout out to my man, Jesse Yandel, and thank you very much for that. And I also want to thank last but not least, I want to thank Gentry Thomas, which is the owner of the podcast platform that I am on. Thank you very much, sir, for giving me this forum to spew all my bullshit on. Thank you so much. And I really, really want to thank everybody who has listened and no longer listens. I want to thank the people who are listening and are currently listening. I want to thank the people who have not yet listened, but will in the future. I want to thank you all. Thank you so much for listening to the Deron Harris podcast. And I also want to go ahead and give a shout out to the podcast Playground and the other podcasts. I have some label mates, so to speak. Go give them a listen. There's a lot of good podcasts. The SBK Show, Dirty Blonde with Bridget B, the Outcast Podcast. There's just a lot of good podcasts. There's a few of them. There's quite a few podcasts. So do yourself a favor. Head on over to the podcast Playground. Pick you out a good, solid podcast. Listen up, and yeah, you guys have a good week. And I'll see you next week. Peace.